There are moments in life when the soul feels inexplicably weary, not from labor but from the absence of desire to labor. The fire dims, the once bright vision fades into gray, and motivation becomes a stranger. We tend to interpret these seasons as failure of discipline, of faith, of purpose. But what if, contrary to our instincts, this loss of drive was not a failure at all, but a mercy? What if, rather than being cast adrift, we were being quietly held in place, not imprisoned, but shielded? There is a subtle kind of protection that feels at first like punishment. The child who is told not to play near the cliff may think the parent cruel. The animal wounded in the wild who is taken into the stillness of a cage may think it is being confined, not rescued. We too mistake divine withholding for abandonment, and we misread the silence of heaven as heaven turning away. But silence is not always neglect. It is often the sound of preparation, and when the soul is stilled, when the spark refuses to light, it is not always a sign of rebellion or apathy. It may be that the very hand of God has pressed gently against our chest and whispered, "Not yet." Imagine for a moment that the road you were striving to walk was crumbling just beyond the hill you could not see. Imagine that your ambition, if fulfilled in the time you demanded, would have pulled you into disaster. Can you fathom that love might look like delay? That divine foresight may come disguised as personal stagnation? The gate did not open because the path was not yet safe. You thought you had failed to be ready, but in truth it was the world that was not yet made ready for you. There are dangers that God sees which we do not. We ask for opportunities and wonder why the doors remain shut. But just as you would not send a seedling into winter, neither will God thrust you into an atmosphere that would choke the growth He intends. He shields, not because you are weak, but because His plans are strong. He withholds momentum, not because you are incapable, but because what lies ahead requires you to carry a weight that you cannot yet bear without being crushed. The loss of motivation, then, may be a signal not of defeat, but of divine defense. And yet this season of stillness is not purposeless. While you wait, something is happening beneath the surface. Roots are deepening, the ground is being tilled. You are being prepared for the very thing you are meant to walk in, but not before it is time. There is no such thing as wasted preparation. What feels dormant is only quiet because it is sacred. Heaven never wastes delay. But hear this, the shield will not stay forever. The same hand that covered you will soon uncover you. The quiet will give way to movement, to opportunity, to divine release. And when it comes, and it will not be a slow trickle but a flood. The pressure you felt inside, the ache, the frustration, will all make sense in retrospect. You were being held in place because the time was not yet, but the time is drawing near. So do not despise the stillness. Do not curse the weariness. The loss of motivation was not the loss of purpose. It was the covering of it. There are times in life when our inner flame seems to die out, not with drama, not with catastrophe, but with a quiet fading. One day you wake up and realize that the energy, the passion, the drive that once compelled you forward is gone, and not just diminished but entirely absent. You look inward for the fault. Am I lazy? Have I sinned? Did I miss something? The questions swirl, and in the absence of answers, shame creeps in. But perhaps the absence of motivation is not a sign of your failure at all. Perhaps it is evidence of divine restraint, not punishment but protection. What if the hand of heaven pulled back your will because your path was leading to a place you were not meant to go? We often assume that if we are not advancing, something must be wrong. But sometimes when we are kept from moving forward, It is because God is shielding us from something we cannot yet see. Not every delay is demonic. Some are deeply divine. You see, motivation is not always a virtue. It can be a dangerous thing in the wrong context. A sharp sword is a gift in the hands of the wise, but a curse in the hands of the impulsive. There are doors we pray to walk through that God, in His mercy, locks, not because He wants to deny us, but because He wants to preserve us. You thought you were being forgotten, when in fact you were being hidden. You assumed you were unworthy, when really you were being protected. Not every silence is a rejection. Some silences are heavy with grace. The loss of momentum may have saved you from disaster. God, in His foresight, often shields us from consequences we did not know we were racing toward. And so He removes the fuel from our engines. He quiets the fire. He gives us just enough light to stay still and not enough to run ahead. But this waiting, this stillness is not without purpose. While we sit in what we perceive as inactivity, something holy is unfolding. The deep work is being done in secret, beneath the visible surface of our lives. We are not being ignored, we are being shaped. God is not delaying out of indifference, He is waiting for fullness, because when He releases what is next, it will not come gently. It will come like a wave, like the opening of floodgates, and we must be prepared not to drown in it. The delay is not an end. It is the stretching of time to create space for the miracle. Just as fruit takes a season to ripen, so does your calling. Just as the earth lies fallow before the harvest, so must your soul be made ready. There is a holy tension in this season, the ache of wanting to move forward and the wisdom to remain still. But the ache itself is a sign that something is near. Divine release is not far, it is approaching, and the ground beneath you already knows it. If you listen closely, you can feel the pressure building, the quiet shifting in the air before the storm breaks. June is not just a month, it is a symbol, a turning, a threshold. What was locked will open. What was withheld will pour forth. But do not be deceived. This release will only bless what is rightly prepared. It will not rush to rescue the impatient. It will crown the patient, the surrendered, the ones who trusted God in the silence. So if you have felt tired, unmotivated, aimless, do not despair. You were not being punished, you were being held. The fire will return, and when it does, it will burn with purpose. The door will open, and when it does, you will walk through it knowing you are not late, but right on time. The loss of motivation was never a loss of calling. It was grace, in disguise. And now, the disguise is beginning to lift. Get ready. There comes a peculiar kind of stillness in life. A quiet that settles not just around you, but inside you. It's different from peace. It's heavier, like a blanket soaked in water. You wake up and the fire is gone. What once stirred you now leaves you indifferent. The vision that once pulled you out of bed has blurred, and even the disciplines you once cherished seem distant. Naturally, your first instinct is to blame yourself. Maybe you've become spiritually lazy, emotionally distracted, or simply too tired to keep up. But what if this stillness, this silence, was not evidence of your failure, but of God's protection? What if, in His mercy, He dimmed the lights, quieted the noise, and took away the fuel from your fire, because the next part of the road would have hurt you more than help you? We think of loss of motivation as a flaw, but heaven often thinks in shields, not just swords. And sometimes the kindest thing God can do is hold us back. You see, we have a tendency to idolize progress. Forward motion becomes our proof of favor. But that kind of thinking forgets that God often leads through stillness. Think of the wilderness, the 40 years of wandering, not as wasted time, but as time guarded by cloud and fire. The Israelites weren't lost, they were led slowly, deliberately. Not every step forward is a step in the right direction. And when our motivation fades, it's not always because we've done something wrong. Sometimes it's because heaven sees what we do not. A trap ahead, a snare just beyond the bend, an opportunity that would have derailed rather than developed us. So the Spirit withdraws his push, not out of abandonment, but preservation. It's the kindness of a shepherd who breaks a lamb's leg to keep it from running off a cliff. In the moment it feels like pain. Later you realize it was mercy. This kind of divine restraint often feels cruel in real time. You pray and the heavens are quiet. You try to press forward and the doors remain closed. You wonder why nothing inside you seems to burn anymore. But while everything in you is frustrated by the pause, something deeper is happening. Stillness is never empty in the kingdom of God. While you sit in silence, God is arranging something beyond your reach. You are not being benched, you are being positioned. Roots grow in the dark, character is forged in the unseen. The patience required in these seasons is not passive, it's active trust. Waiting becomes its own form of worship, and slowly something changes, not always in your circumstances but inside your perception. You stop striving for the next thing and begin to prepare for the right thing. That is when divine timing begins to unfold. And now there is a stirring again. Perhaps faint at first, like the wind shifting before a storm breaks. But it is real. That invisible barrier, that holy pause, is beginning to lift. The season of shielding is turning into a season of release. June is not just a date, it marks something prophetic in the rhythm of your soul. The pressure you've been feeling isn't a wall, it's a gate about to open. But here's the key. The release will not come as a slow, gentle trickle. It will arrive swiftly, like a dam breaking. And when it does, you must be ready to move. Not with fear, but with the confidence of someone who knows they were held for a purpose. The lost motivation wasn't lost, it was borrowed time, given to prepare you for the weight of what's next. Get ready, not to strive again, but to step in. What once felt like delay will soon reveal itself as divine alignment. And you will see that every silent day was part of the plan. There are seasons in life when the very spark that once drove you forward seems to vanish. You don't quite understand why, but what once ignited your soul now leaves you cold. The vision that energized you feels blurry, and the drive that once kept you going has slipped quietly away. It feels like failure or weakness, or some hidden flaw in your character. But that feeling, this internal quiet, may not be a sign that you've lost your way. It may be the evidence that a higher hand has gently pressed pause. We are conditioned to believe that constant movement is proof of progress, and that passion must always burn hot to be real. Yet sometimes, when we lose motivation, it is because God is shielding us, not punishing, not rejecting, but protecting. There are dangers we cannot see, paths that look clear but are lined with thorns. In such moments, the kindest thing God can do is take away our appetite for movement, so we do not walk straight into harm. This divine withholding often comes wrapped in confusion. We begin to question everything. Have I missed my moment? Did I disobey somewhere? But these questions only torment us when we believe delay equals denial. That's not how heaven works. When God hides you, it is never to diminish you, it is to refine you, to reset your inner world so that you are not destroyed by the very thing you were destined to receive. Think of how the moon must hide its full brilliance during an eclipse, not because the light is gone, but because something necessary is passing between it and the source. In the same way, God sometimes places something between you and the flame, not to extinguish it, but to shield you from what would burn too fiercely. We do not always need more motivation. Sometimes what we need is stillness, silence, and the quiet weight of trust. During these times of divine pause, the silence is doing more than we realize. While you wait and wonder, heaven is rearranging the board. Connections are being realigned, dangers are being cleared, lessons are settling deep within your spirit so that they become instinct when the time comes to act. These are not wasted days, they are slow, hidden hours of preparation. Just as a tree's roots go deeper in winter when the branches bear no fruit, your unseen strength is growing now. God is not delaying because you are unworthy. He is waiting until the release will not destroy you. And though it feels like nothing is happening, the truth is, everything is happening. The stage is being set, not for your survival, but your flourishing. But now, the atmosphere is beginning to shift. If you're listening closely, you'll sense it. The same hand that held you still is beginning to lift. The pause is nearing its end. This is not the return of motivation for its own sake. It is the return of divine momentum. The wind is about to blow again. What once was closed will be opened. What once was silent will begin to speak. The delay had purpose, and now that purpose is ripening. But be warned. What is coming will not wait for those who hesitate. The doors that open in this next season are for those who trust the timing, not those who demand control. You will be asked to move quickly, not out of panic, but with certainty. And that certainty will be rooted in what you learned during the quiet, when you were hidden, shielded, and refined. So do not curse the season that felt lifeless. Do not look back in regret as though you wasted time. Time is never wasted in the hands of God. You were not forgotten, you were covered. You were not rejected, you were reserved. And now, as the gates of June begin to swing open, be ready not just for what you prayed for, but for more than you imagined. The release is coming, and it will carry the power of everything you thought was lost. There are moments in life that defy our expectations of progress. You once burned with purpose, your heart eager to run, to build, to create, but then, slowly and quietly, something shifted. The energy vanished, the vision dimmed. The things that once stirred your soul now leave you numb. You try to push yourself to conjure up the spark again, but nothing responds, and so you question yourself. You ask if your faith is weak, if your discipline has failed, if you've drifted. But what if none of those things are true? What if this loss of motivation was not a step backward, but the subtle movement of divine hands shielding you from what you could not see? We rarely think of inaction as protection, but sometimes God removes the drive not because He is done with us, but because He is not done preparing the world around us. We imagine motivation as the sign that we are aligned with heaven, but alignment is not always loud. Sometimes it is still, like a ship waiting in harbor, tethered not because it is broken, but because the sea ahead is not yet safe. We do not always realize the timing of storms. We only see the delay. We think, why can't I move forward, while God is whispering, because forward would break you right now. In these seasons, motivation doesn't leave you, it's taken from you. Like a parent gently removing a dangerous tool from a child's hand, God pauses your progress to protect what He's placed inside you. Your heart was never the problem, the timing was, and so the silence fell, not as abandonment, but as an answer. In that silence, something happens. Beneath the frustration, a hidden work begins. You start to notice the difference between movement and growth. You realize that success without readiness is sabotage, that open doors before open eyes are a trap, and slowly, though it feels painful, your roots dig deeper. You begin to yield, not to apathy, but to trust. You stop striving and start listening. And in that listening, you find that God has not gone anywhere. He has been near the whole time, guarding, watching, refining. The loss of motivation wasn't a death, it was a cocoon. Something was transforming even if you could not name it, and in time you come to understand. What you thought was stagnation was actually sacred stillness, the stillness before a storm. But this storm will bring harvest, not harm. And now the stillness is lifting, the ground beneath your feet feels different, the air around you carries a charge. What once felt heavy now feels holy. You sense the momentum returning, not as hype, not as emotional energy, but as deep inner readiness. The delay is coming to its end. June is not just a month, it is a hinge, a turning point. The gates are being unlatched, and what was kept from you for your protection will soon be given to you in fullness. But with this release comes responsibility. What is about to flow into your life is not casual, it is strategic. It was shaped in silence, and now it will require your courage. You won't be able to approach it with hesitation. You must move with clarity, because hesitation will cost more in this season than in any before it. This is not a return to where you left off. It is an arrival into something new. So do not mourn the quiet. Do not resent the pause. You are being kept, hidden but not forgotten, sheltered, not benched. And now, as the wind begins to stir, as the motivation begins to rise, remember this: the shield is lifting not because the danger is over, but because you are ready. The wait is over, the release is here. Move forward, not with the urgency of someone trying to prove something, but with the assurance of one who was held by God Himself until the exact right moment.